The Whispering Dreamweaver. Elara lived a life woven from the simplest of threads in the village of Oakhaven. Tucked deep within the verdant valley, Oakhaven was renowned not for bustling markets or grand castles, but for its profound, almost sacred stillness. Days unfolded with the predictable rhythm of the sun, the soft clatter of the baker's delivery cart at dawn, the distant bleating of sheep from the communal pastures, the low hum of conversation from the village green in the early evening. Elara, a girl of 19, with hair the color of midnight and eyes the shade of moss after a spring rain, found solace in this quiet. She spent her days in the village library, a small, dust-moted haven filled with scrolls and tomes that chronicled the mundane, crop rotations, forgotten recipes, and the lineage of local families. She often dreamt of more, though she wouldn't admit it aloud. Her dreams, unlike the village's quiet reality, were vibrant tapestries of shimmering light and forgotten melodies, always just beyond her grasp upon waking. One crisp autumn evening, as the last rays of sunlight bled from the sky, painting the clouds in hues of rose and violet, Elara walked the familiar path home from the library. The air was cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and burning leaves. Usually, this walk was a peaceful meditation, the crunch of fallen leaves under her worn boots the only sound, but tonight, a faint, almost imperceptible hum reached her ears. It was a sound unlike any she had ever heard, not the buzzing of a bee, nor the rustle of wind through the ancient oaks. It was a resonant thrum, like a single taut string vibrating deep within the earth. She paused, tilting her head, her brow furrowed in curiosity. The sound seemed to emanate from the direction of the Whispering Woods, a dense, ancient forest that bordered Oakhaven to the west. Villagers often warned against venturing too deep into its shadowy embrace, speaking of lost travelers and unsettling whispers carried on the wind. Elara, however, felt a pull, a strange, undeniable curiosity blossoming in her chest. It was the same feeling she got when she stumbled upon an old unread map in the library, or when the moon hung full and heavy, bathing the valley in an ethereal glow. "It's just the wind, Elara," she murmured to herself, attempting to dismiss the sensation, yet her feet instinctively began to steer her towards the edge of the woods. The humming grew stronger, a gentle vibration that seemed to resonate within her very bones. It wasn't menacing, but rather inviting, like a lullaby woven from pure energy. She reached the gnarled roots of the ancient sentinel oak that marked the forest's unofficial boundary. Its branches, thick as ancient serpents, stretched out like protective arms, casting deep shadows. The air here was cooler, laden with the scent of pine needles and something else, something sweet and wild, like blooming night jasmine. Hesitantly, Elara stepped beneath the canopy. The path, barely more than a deer trail, was dappled with the last vestiges of twilight. The trees closed in, their leaves rustling softly, as if whispering secrets only the forest could understand. The humming, now a clear, resonant tone, pulsed steadily, guiding her deeper. She walked for what felt like an eternity, though it could have only been minutes, her heart thrumming in unison with the mysterious sound. Each step felt lighter, as if the ground itself was lifting her. The familiar anxieties of village life, the quiet expectations, the unspoken limitations, began to recede, replaced by a nascent sense of wonder. The path, which had been barely discernible, suddenly widened into a hidden glade. Elara gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, not in fear, but in sheer awe. Before her lay a scene stolen directly from her most fantastical dreams. The glade was bathed in an ethereal, shifting light that seemed to originate from nowhere and everywhere at once. It wasn't sunlight or moonlight, but a luminescence that pulsed with all the colors of the aurora borealis, swirling and dancing amidst the ancient trees. The trees themselves were unlike any she had ever seen. Their bark shimmered with embedded crystals, and their leaves, instead of green, were a myriad of blues, purples, and silvers, whispering with an almost audible soft chime as a gentle breeze passed through them. In the center of the glade stood a towering ancient tree, its trunk impossibly wide, its branches reaching towards the sky like arms embracing the heavens. From its lowest branches hung strands of what appeared to be pure moonlight, shimmering like spun silver, and beneath this magnificent tree, bathed in the iridescent light, was a structure that defies mortal description. It was a loom, but not one crafted from wood and simple thread. This loom was intricate, fashioned from what looked like interwoven starlight and polished gemstones. At its heart, a single glowing spindle spun effortlessly, drawing the moon-silver strands from the tree and weaving them into a fabric that shifted and flowed like liquid light. "By the ancestors," Elara whispered, her voice barely a breath. She approached cautiously, her boots sinking into a carpet of luminous moss that seemed to hum with the same energy she had followed. As she drew closer, she realized the humming originated from the loom itself, a harmonious thrum that resonated with the very fabric of existence. The air was warm, filled with the scent of something impossibly ancient and deeply magical. Then she saw her, seated before the shimmering loom. Her back to Elara was a figure. Her hair, the color of spun gold, cascaded down her back, interwoven with tiny glowing blossoms. She wore a gown that seemed to be made from the same shifting light as the fabric on the loom, her movements graceful and fluid as she guided the threads with long, slender fingers. Her presence exuded an aura of profound calm and timeless wisdom. Elara hesitated, unsure if she should speak, if she had stumbled into a place where mortals were not meant to tread. As if sensing her presence, the figure paused her work and slowly turned. Her eyes, the deepest pools of emerald Elara had ever seen, held a kindness that immediately dispelled any fear. A gentle smile touched her lips, revealing not the wrinkles of age, but the serene wisdom of countless centuries. "Welcome, child of Oakhaven." The woman's voice was a soft melody, like wind chimes in a summer breeze. "I have been expecting you." Elara blinked, astonished. You were expecting me? But how?" The woman chuckled, a sound like rustling leaves. "The loom knows. It weaves the threads of destiny, and your thread, Elara, has been growing brighter with each passing season. You carry the spark of the Dreamweaver, though it lies dormant within you still." Elara felt a strange sense of recognition, as if a missing piece of herself had just been named. "Dreamweaver? What is that?" "It is who you are, or rather, who you are destined to become," the woman replied, gesturing to the space beside her. Come, sit. My name is Lyra. And this," she gestured to the shimmering loom, "is the Loom of Dreams." Elara sat beside Lyra, the luminous moss warm beneath her. The Loom of Dreams pulsed before them, its intricate mechanisms flowing with a silent, vibrant energy. Up close, Elara could see that the moon's silver strands were not mere light, but crystalline threads, each one humming with its own unique resonance. "The Loom of Dreams," Lyra began, her voice a soothing balm, "is the heart of all magic in this realm. It weaves the very fabric of reality, not with physical threads, but with the dreams and aspirations of all living things. Every hope, every wish, every spark of imagination feeds its power, and from its loom, magic flows into the world, painting the sunrise, stirring the wind, and giving life to the ancient spirits of the earth." Elara listened, captivated, but how? "I always thought magic was just stories." Lyra smiled gently. "Stories are the echoes of magic, child. They are how we remember what was, and how we imagine what could be. For generations, the loom has been tended by dreamweavers, those gifted with the ability to perceive and guide its delicate threads. It is a sacred duty passed down through lines of those with sensitive souls and open hearts." She paused, her gaze resting on Elara. "And now, it is your turn." Elara's eyes widened. "My turn? But I don't know anything about magic. I'm just Elara from Oakhaven. I read books." "And that, Elara, is precisely why you are suited," Lyra said softly. "You seek knowledge, you yearn for understanding, and your dreams have always been vivid, haven't they? The magic is not in casting spells, not yet, but in seeing the unseen, in hearing the unheard, in feeling the subtle currents that bind all things." Lyra reached out, taking Elara's hand. Her touch was warm, sending a gentle tingle up Elara's arm. As their skin met, Elara felt a rush of images, fleeting glimpses of vibrant colors and intricate patterns, as if a curtain had been pulled back from her mind's eye. "The loom," Lyra continued, her voice growing slightly somber, "is in peril. Look closer, Elara." She gestured towards the shimmering fabric being woven. Elara leaned in, her gaze sharpening. At first, she saw only perfection, but then she noticed it. In certain areas of the woven light, the colors were duller, faded, almost gray. Some threads seemed brittle, even broken. "The hues are fading," Lyra explained, her voice tinged with sorrow. "For generations, the people of this realm have slowly forgotten how to dream. Their aspirations have dwindled, their hopes have dimmed. The mundane has consumed them, and the loom, deprived of its vital essence, weakens. If it ceases to spin, magic will drain from the world entirely. The trees will wither, the rivers will cease to flow, and the very sky will turn to ash." A shiver ran down Elara's spine, but it wasn't from cold. It was the chill of understanding, of a grave responsibility suddenly placed upon her shoulders. "What can we do?" she asked, her voice hushed. "We must rekindle the dreams," Lyra replied, her emerald eyes meeting Elara's with a determined glint. "There are 3 sacred artifacts scattered across this realm, each infused with the essence of pure, potent dreams. The whisper of the star singer, a chime set to hold the lullabies of forgotten constellations, the tear of the earth heart, a crystal that weeps the silent joy of growth and renewal, and the mirror of the moon gazer, a polished obsidian that reflects the deepest, truest desires of the soul. If we can gather them and bring them back to the loom, their combined power might restore its vitality. But where are they? Elara stammered, overwhelmed by the enormity of the task. Lyra reached into a small, intricately carved wooden box beside her and pulled out an ancient, brittle map, its edges frayed with age. She unfurled it carefully, revealing a parchment covered in faded ink and cryptic symbols. This map has guided dreamweavers for centuries. It marks the approximate locations, but the journey will be perilous, Elara. The fading magic has allowed shadows to creep into the world, creatures born of apathy and despair. They will try to stop us. Elara looked from the map to the fading loom, then to Lyra's determined face. A strange resolve began to solidify within her. The quiet life of Oakhaven suddenly seemed very far away. This was what her dreams had been hinting at, this unseen thread pulling her towards a destiny she could scarcely comprehend. "I'll go," Elara said, her voice firmer than she expected. "I'll help you." Lyra's smile brightened, a ray of pure warmth. "I knew you would, Elara." The loom chose wisely. "Tomorrow, at first light, we shall begin. Rest now, for the path ahead demands a clear mind and a brave heart." The first sliver of dawn painted the sky in soft mauves and greys as Elara met Lyra at the edge of the Whispering Woods. Elara carried a simple satchel containing a water skin, a few dried provisions, and a small, well-worn book of folk tales, her comfort from the library. Lyra, dressed in practical, earth-toned robes, carried only a staff made of polished dark wood, topped with a glowing, moss-covered crystal. "Ready, Dreamweaver?" Lyra asked, her eyes twinkling. Elara nodded, a knot of nerves and excitement fluttering in her stomach. "As ready as I'll ever be." Their first destination, according to the ancient map, was the Sunken Peaks, a range of perpetually shrouded mountains to the north, rumored to hold the whisper of the Star Singer. The journey through the Whispering Woods, guided by Lyra's innate knowledge of its paths, was swift and silent. The forest seemed to acknowledge Lyra, its leaves rustling in soft greeting, the dappled sunlight creating shifting patterns on their path. As they neared the northern edge of the woods, where the terrain began to rise, they heard it, a series of high-pitched chirps, followed by a distressed squawk. "Stay close," Lyra cautioned, her hand on Elara's arm. They found a small creature, no bigger than Elara's hand, trapped beneath a fallen branch. It had shimmering, iridescent feathers like a hummingbird, but with disproportionately large, intelligent eyes the color of polished amber. It struggled frantically, its tiny wings beating against the mossy ground. "It's a glimmerwing," Lyra explained, her voice gentle. "Rare and elusive, they are messengers of the forest, sensitive to shifts in the magical currents." Carefully, Lyra and Elara worked together to lift the heavy branch. The glimmerwing, freed, fluttered upwards, circling them once, its eyes fixed on Elara. It landed softly on her shoulder, its tiny claws barely perceptible, and let out a soft, melodious trill. "It seems you have made a friend, Elara," Lyra smiled. glimmerwings are drawn to nascent magic. It senses the Dreamweaver within you. It's beautiful, Elara whispered, captivated by the creature's delicate beauty. The glimmerwing tilted its head, then nudged its small beak against her cheek, a gesture of undeniable affection. He will be a useful companion, Lyra observed. They possess an uncanny ability to sense disturbances and guide through treacherous paths. What will you name him? Elara thought for a moment. He shines so brightly, like a tiny star. I'll call him Lumi. Lumi chirped in response, settling comfortably on her shoulder. His presence brought a strange sense of comfort and lightness to Elara, easing her anxieties about the unknown journey ahead. As they left the Whispering Woods behind, the landscape began to change. The gentle slopes gave way to rocky foothills, and the air grew colder, thinner. The sunken peaks loomed in the distance, their jagged silhouettes perpetually wreathed in mist. Lyra consulted the map, tracing a line with her finger. The path to the sunken peaks is treacherous, Elara, she said. The air itself can be deceptive, playing tricks on the mind. We must rely on our instincts and on Lumi's guidance. Their first challenge came swiftly as they navigated a narrow gorge. A sudden, unnatural silence fell. Even Lumi, usually so vocal, grew still, his feathers bristling. The mist, which had been a distant haze, now swirled around them, dense and disorienting. Elara felt a prickle of unease. The air grew heavy, pressing down on her. "What is this feeling?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "These are the whispers of doubt," Lyra explained, her voice calm but firm. "Shadow creatures, born from the collective anxieties of a world forgetting its dreams. They feed on fear and uncertainty. Close your mind to their illusions, Elara. Focus on your purpose." The mist thickened, and distorted shapes began to coalesce within it. Whispers, faint at first, then growing louder, echoed through the gorge, voices from her past, telling her she wasn't good enough, that she was foolish to leave Oakhaven, that she would fail. Elara felt a cold dread creep into her heart. Her breath hitched. "You can't do this, Elara. Go home. You're just a girl who reads books. This is too much for you." The whispers clawed at her, trying to plant seeds of despair. Lumi, perched on her shoulder, let out a piercing, high-pitched trill. The sound, sharp and clear, cut through the oppressive mist. Lyra, meanwhile, raised her staff. The crystal atop it pulsed with a warm, golden light, pushing back against the shadows. "Remember your dreams, Elara." Lyra's voice resonated with power, cutting through the insidious whispers. "Remember the loom. What do you truly desire?" Elara squeezed her eyes shut, fighting the rising panic. Her mind raced, grasping for something real, something pure. She thought of the shimmering glade, of the Loom of Dreams, of the quiet beauty of her village that she now sought to protect. She thought of the warmth of Lumi on her shoulder, the gentle strength of Lyra beside her, and then she remembered her own secret, vibrant dreams, the ones of colors and melodies, of unseen connections. A fierce resolve ignited within her. "I desire to help," she declared, her voice trembling but firm. "I desire to see the loom spin brightly again. I desire to protect Oakhaven." As she spoke, the golden light from Lyra's staff intensified, and Lumi's trills became a continuous, harmonious melody. the oppressive mist began to recede, shredded by the combined power of their focused will. The distorted shapes flickered and dissipated, dissolving into nothingness. The whispers faded, replaced by the natural sounds of the gorge, the distant trickle of water, the rustle of a few hardy bushes. Elara opened her eyes. The mist was gone, the air clear and crisp. She took a deep, shuddering breath. I felt them, she said, her voice still a little shaky. They were so real. They feed on your doubts, Elara, Lyra said gently, but your true desire, your unyielding will, is a beacon they cannot extinguish. You face them down. That is the first step of a dreamweaver. Lyra smiled, a look of profound pride on her face. Come, the peaks await. With Lumi chirping softly on her shoulder, a small but significant victory under her belt, Elara felt a renewed sense of purpose. The path ahead was still unknown, but she was no longer alone, and she was beginning to understand the strength that lay dormant within her. The climb into the sunken peaks was arduous. The air grew thinner with each upward turn, and the jagged rocks offered precarious footing. The perpetual mist that clung to the mountainsides made visibility challenging, often reducing their world to a swirling vortex of grey. Yet Lyra moved with an easy grace, her staff tapping rhythmically on the stone, guiding them through the labyrinthine trails. Lumi, ever vigilant, would occasionally flutter ahead, his small form a beacon in the gloom, returning to chirp a warning or beckon them onward. Days blurred into a pattern of challenging climbs, sparse meals, and nights spent huddled under rocky overhangs. Elara, accustomed to the soft comforts of Oakhaven, felt her muscles ache and her skin chap, but with each new ache, a new strength bloomed within her. She learned to read the subtle shifts in the wind, to discern safe footholds, and to trust Lumi's intuitive guidance. More importantly, she learned to quiet her mind, to silence the lingering echoes of doubt that still tried to creep in. The star singer's whisper is hidden in the highest reaches, Lyra explained one evening as they watched a breathtaking, though muted, sunset paint the upper ridges. It is said to hang suspended in the very breath of the ancient stars, accessible only to those whose hearts resonate with the cosmic melody. After a week of relentless ascent, they finally reached the rumored location, a vast, high-altitude plateau, strangely flat amidst the sharp peaks. Here the mist was thinner, replaced by a biting wind that carried the scent of ancient stone and ice. In the center of the plateau stood a circle of colossal, dark monoliths, their surfaces smooth and cold, inscribed with symbols that seemed to shift and shimmer in the fading light. "This is it," Lyra breathed, her voice filled with reverence. "The circle of celestial echoes." As they stepped into the circle, the air grew still, the biting wind dying to a whisper. A faint, almost imperceptible hum filled the space, far grander and more ancient than the loom's thrum. It was a silence filled with sound, a symphony of cosmic vibrations. Lumi fluttered from Elara's shoulder, circling the monoliths, his iridescent feathers glowing brighter than ever. The whisper of the star singer is within the heart of this silence. Lyra murmured, her eyes closed in concentration. It is not heard with the ears, but felt with the soul. "You must open yourself, Elara," let your dreams reach out. Elara closed her eyes, taking a deep breath of the crisp, cold air. She tried to follow Lyra's instruction to open herself, but she didn't know how. She focused on the humming, letting it fill her senses. Slowly, the humming seemed to deepen, to coalesce into a vast, intricate melody. She saw colors behind her eyelids, swirling nebulae of violet and gold, dancing stars, and distant, majestic galaxies. Then she felt a profound sadness. It was the sadness of forgotten songs, of melodies lost to the ages, of stars whose light had faded unseen. It was the sadness of a world that had forgotten its connection to the vast, dreaming cosmos. "Feel it, Elara." Lyra's voice was a gentle whisper in her mind. "Feel the longing of the cosmos for its lost lullabies, and then offer your own." Offer her own? Elara didn't know how to sing a cosmic lullaby, but then an image bloomed in her mind, the loom of dreams, its threads fading, the faces of the people of Oakhaven, living their quiet lives, perhaps unknowingly losing a piece of their vibrancy. She thought of Lumi, small but fiercely loyal. She thought of Lyra, tireless in her guardianship. A surge of fierce determination, of hope washed over her. She would help. She would rekindle the dreams. As this resolve solidified, a new sensation flowed through her, not a sound, but a feeling of profound harmony, a resonance with the vastness of everything. It was as if her own heart had become a tiny star, pulsing in unison with the cosmic symphony. Suddenly, a brilliant point of light, like a newly born star, coalesced in the very center of the monolith circle. It grew, expanding into a shimmering, crystalline chime, no larger than Elara's hand. It was translucent, gleaming with an inner light, and as it hung suspended in the air, it emitted no sound, yet Elara felt its melody deep within her soul, a pure, resonant note that spoke of ancient starlight and boundless possibility. This was the whisper of the star singer. Lyra's eyes fluttered open, a look of profound relief and joy on her face. "You did it, Elara. You truly are a dreamweaver." With a soft, almost imperceptible movement, the chime floated gently downwards, coming to rest in Elara's outstretched palm. It was surprisingly light, yet vibrated with an immense, silent power. Lumi landed on the chime, his little body seeming to absorb its radiant energy. "One down," Elara whispered, a smile spreading across her face. The weariness of the climb, the lingering chill of the peaks, all seemed to vanish, replaced by a surge of warmth and renewed determination. With the whisper of the star singer safely tucked into a padded pouch within Elara's satchel, its subtle hum a constant, reassuring presence, they began their descent from the sunken peaks. The journey down was faster, though no less demanding on their weary limbs. As they left the crisp, thin air of the heights, the mist thickened once more, but now it felt less like a natural phenomenon and more like a pervasive shroud. Their next destination, according to Lyra's map, was the Valley of Sighs, a desolate, marshy region to the south, said to hold the tear of the earth heart. Tales of the Valley of Sighs were not pleasant in Oakhaven. It was rumored to be a place where sorrows clung to the very air, where plants withered and hope itself struggled to take root. As they approached the lowlands, the vibrant autumn colors of the foothills gave way to a landscape of muted greys and browns. Leafless trees clawed at the sky, their branches skeletal. The air grew heavy, damp, and stagnant, carrying a pervasive scent of decay and stagnation. Lumi, usually so bright and active, huddled closer to Elara's neck, his chirps muted, his light flickering faintly. The magic here is severely depleted, Lyra observed, her voice hushed. This land mirrors the deepest despair of the realm, the tear of the earth. Heart is said to weep for this very emptiness. They followed a barely visible path that wound through murky pools and over slippery roots. With every step, Elara felt a subtle drain on her spirit, as if the very air was siphoning away her joy. The heavy silence was occasionally broken by a mournful, drawn-out sigh that seemed to echo from the very ground beneath them. It was a sound of profound grief, of forgotten dreams turning to dust. "This is worse than the whispers of doubt," Elara murmured, pulling her cloak tighter around her. "It's overwhelming." "Indeed," Lyra replied, her face grim. "The creatures of despair are stronger here. They are born of pure apathy, insidious and difficult to fight directly." Suddenly, the ground around them began to ripple, not with water, but with shadow. Dark, amorphous shapes rose from the murky pools, twisting and coiling like tendrils of smoke. They had no discernible features, only vague, shifting forms that radiated an overwhelming sense of hopelessness. These were the weeping shades, remnants of dreams that had completely withered away. One of the shades drifted towards them, its form expanding, engulfing the faint light around it. Elara felt a sudden, profound exhaustion, a desire to simply lie down and give up. Lumi let out a pained squeak, his light dimming significantly. "Do not succumb, Elara," Lyra cried, her staff glowing with a fierce, defiant light. "They feed on your despair. Remember the loom. Remember Oakhaven." Elara tried to resist, but the feeling of utter futility was immense. It was as if every joy she had ever known was being systematically erased. The star singer's whisper in her pouch seemed to thrum faintly, as if struggling against the overwhelming negativity. "What's the point?" A voice, not her own, but one that felt profoundly true, whispered in her mind. "It's too late. The loom is too far gone. Oakhaven will fall. Just accept it." This wasn't fear, like with the whispers of doubt. This was pure, suffocating apathy. Elara felt her limbs grow heavy, her will dissolving. She saw the faces of her family, her friends in Oakhaven, fading away, becoming indistinct. Then she remembered something Lyra had said in the glade. Every hope, every wish, every spark of imagination feeds its power. What was the opposite of apathy? What was the opposite of giving up? Joy, even a tiny spark of it. Elara forced herself to recall a memory, a simple, pure moment of joy. She thought of the smell of freshly baked bread from the village oven, the warmth of the sun on her face during a summer afternoon nap, the exhilaration of discovering a new story in an old book. She focused on the feeling, the small, almost imperceptible warmth that spread through her chest. It was difficult, almost painful to hold on to. The weeping shades recoiled slightly, as if struck by an invisible force. Lumi, sensing the shift, let out a small, hopeful chirp, and his light flared briefly. "Good, Elara," Lyra encouraged, pushing back another shade with a wave of her staff. focus on the beauty, the simple joys. That is the earth, heart's plea. Elara focused harder, pouring all her remaining energy into remembering the vibrancy of life. She pictured the lush green of the whispering woods, the clear blue of the sky above Oakhaven, the laughter of children playing on the village green. She thought of the silent, powerful song of the star singer's whisper, still thrumming faintly in her pouch. As she did, a tiny, almost imperceptible ripple of light spread outwards from her, pushing back the oppressive shadows. The weeping shades hissed, their amorphous forms shrinking slightly, as if burned by the pure, unadulterated emotion. "Hope," Elara whispered, the word a struggle to utter, yet imbued with a newfound strength. "There's always hope." The light around her intensified, not a blinding flash, but a steady, persistent glow. The weeping shades recoiled completely, dissolving back into the murky ground, leaving behind only the stagnant air and the lingering scent of despair. Lumi flew up, circling Elara's head, his light once again bright and vibrant. Lyra, though weary, offered Elara a small, proud smile. "You faced the most insidious foe, Elara, and you found joy even in its deepest despair. Now we follow that joy. It will lead us to the tear of the earth heart." The air around them, though still heavy, felt less suffocating. The path ahead seemed a little clearer. Elara felt drained, but invigorated. She had stared into the abyss of hopelessness and found a tiny spark to ignite. And that spark, she realized, was more powerful than any shadow. Guided by the subtle warmth that now emanated from Elara, a warmth that seemed to counteract the valley's lingering chill, they pressed deeper into the heart of the Valley of Sighs. The landscape grew stranger still. The marshy pools gave way to dark, still ponds, and the skeletal trees were replaced by formations of jagged, dark rock that seemed to weep perpetual moisture. The air thrummed with a low, mournful resonance, the collective sighs of the land growing stronger. Lumi, perched on Elara's shoulder, would occasionally emit soft, comforting trills, as if trying to soothe the landscape's sorrow. They eventually arrived at a hidden grotto, nestled within a cluster of weeping willow-like trees whose branches trailed into a still, obsidian-like pond. The grotto itself was carved from dark, smooth stone, slick with moisture, and from every crevice, from every stony fissure, droplets of shimmering, opalescent liquid slowly emerged, clinging to the rock face before falling into the pond below. "The grotto of weeping stones," Lyra announced, her voice hushed with reverence. "The tear of the earth, heart is here." Elara stepped inside. The air was cool, pure, and surprisingly fresh, a stark contrast to the valley outside. The sound of the dripping droplets was like a melancholic rain, each drop a tiny, shimmering tear. As she watched, one droplet formed, shimmered with an inner rainbow of colors, and slowly detached itself from the stone, falling with a soft plink into the dark water. It was a sight of profound, quiet beauty. The earth, heart, Lyra explained, is the spirit of creation, of growth, of renewal. When the world forgets its dreams, its connection to the living earth weakens, and the earth, heart, weeps. These are its tears. pure essence of joy and sorrow intertwined. The tear they sought, however, was not just any droplet. The true tear, Elara continued, is the first tear shed in true sorrow, yet imbued with the unwavering hope of renewal. It has been absorbed by the very rock, and only a heart attuned to its dual nature can coax it forth. Elara approached the wall of weeping stone. She placed her hand gently against its cool, damp surface. She closed her eyes, trying to connect with the essence of the earth heart to understand its weeping. She felt it then, a vast, ancient sadness, the sorrow of forests felled, rivers poisoned, and lands forgotten. It was the pain of life stifled, of growth denied. But beneath that profound grief, she also sensed something else, an unbreakable resilience, a quiet strength, a yearning for life to flourish anew. It was the silent promise of a seed breaking through the earth, of a bloom pushing through barren soil. As Elara focused, remembering the joy she had drawn upon to push back the weeping shades, she willed that feeling of hope and renewal to flow from her hands into the stone. She poured her desire for the loom to be restored, for magic to return to the world, for Oakhaven to thrive into the cold rock. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, a faint glow began to emanate from a small indentation in the stone where her palm rested. The opalescent droplets around it seemed to shimmer brighter, accelerating their gentle descent. The glow intensified, pulsing with a soft, warm light that spread outwards, illuminating the dark grotto. Then, from the center of the glow, a single, perfect teardrop of pure, solidified light slowly began to emerge. It was larger than the other droplets, perfectly formed, shimmering with all the colors of the rainbow, like an encapsulated sun. This was the tear of the earth heart. With infinite slowness, it detached itself from the rock and floated gently towards Elara's open palm. As it settled there, a profound sense of peace washed over her. It was as if the earth itself had embraced her, whispering ancient lullabies of growth and life. Lumi chirped excitedly, his small body vibrating with delight as he landed softly on the shimmering tear, his light mirroring its brilliance. "Remarkable, Elara," Lyra whispered, her eyes wide with admiration. "You have truly communed with the earth heart. Its hope will strengthen the loom." Elara carefully placed the tear of the earth heart into another padded pouch, its gentle warmth a stark contrast to the star singer's cool, silent thrum. With 2 artifacts secured, a sense of quiet triumph filled her. They still had one more to find, but the weight of the task felt lighter now. The journey through the Valley of Sighs, though draining, had taught her an invaluable lesson. Even in the deepest despair, there was always a seed of hope waiting to sprout. Their journey from the oppressive Valley of Sighs led them eastward, towards a region marked on Lyra's map as the Silvered Sands. Leaving behind the damp chill, the air grew dry and hot, and the landscape transformed into rolling dunes of impossibly fine, gleaming sand. The sand glittered under the sun like countless crushed diamonds, reflecting the light in a dazzling, almost blinding display. The mirror of the moon, Gazer, is said to be found amidst these dunes, Lyra explained, shielding her eyes from the glare. It is a place where illusions are rife, and desires can be twisted into dangerous traps. The silvered sands were deceptively beautiful. The shifting dunes made navigation difficult, and the perpetual shimmer created mirages that tantalized and confused. They saw oases that vanished upon approach, and figures that melted into the heat haze. Lumi, his iridescent feathers seeming to shimmer with the sand, became their primary guide, his unerring sense of direction cutting through the optical trickery. After days of traversing the shimmering expanse, their water supplies dwindling despite careful rationing, they came upon a peculiar sight. In the heart of a vast, bowl-shaped depression, a solitary, ancient stone archway stood, its surface worn smooth by the ceaseless wind and sand. Etched into its dark stone were intricate, swirling patterns that seemed to shift and writhe. "The Serpent's Gate," Lyra murmured, her eyes narrowed. "It guards the mirror. Legend says it asks a riddle, and only those whose desires are pure can pass." As they approached the archway, a low, guttural hiss emanated from within its shadows. A creature, massive and sinuous, slowly uncoiled itself from around the ancient stone. It was a serpent, unlike any Elara had ever imagined. Its scales were the color of polished obsidian, gleaming wetly in the sun, and its eyes, large and unsettling, glowed with an inner predatory light. It had no fangs, but its gaze was intensely piercing, delving deep into their very souls. "Who approaches the gate of reflection?" The serpent's voice was a low rumble, resonating in their chests. "And what do you seek in these deceitful sands?" Lyra stepped forward, her staff held loosely. "We seek the mirror of the moon, gazer, guardian, to mend the loom of dreams and restore the magic of this realm." The serpent's gaze shifted to Elara, its eyes narrowing. "A noble quest, perhaps, but noble desires can be twisted. Tell me, child, why do you truly seek the mirror? What deepest desire drives your heart?" Elara felt a sudden prickle of unease. The serpent's gaze seemed to strip away her defenses, laying bare her innermost thoughts. She knew her stated desire was to help the loom, but beneath that, were there other, more selfish longings? Would the serpent see them? She thought of her quiet life in Oakhaven, the unspoken yearning for something more, something grander than crop rotations and library scrolls. She thought of the thrill of discovery, the power she had felt in facing down the whispers of doubt and the weeping shades. Was it simply about saving the world, or was it also about proving herself, about finding her own place? The serpent observed her silently, its ancient eyes seemingly reading every flicker of emotion on her face. The pressure was immense. If she lied, if she presented a false front, she might fail. "I seek the mirror," Elara began, her voice steadying as she decided to speak her truth. Because I want to help Lyra. I want to save the loom. I want to bring magic back to the world so that people can dream again, so that Oakhaven can flourish." She paused, then added, her voice softer, "And I also seek it because I want to understand what it means to be a dreamweaver. I want to understand myself. I want to find my true path, beyond the quiet life I've always known." The serpent held her gaze for a long moment, its obsidian scales shimmering. Then, to Elara's surprise, a low, rumbling sound, almost like a purr, emanated from its massive chest. "Honesty," the serpent rumbled. "A rare and potent desire in these lands of illusion. It is good to seek the greater good, but it is equally vital to understand the desires that beat within your own heart. For only by knowing yourself can you truly reflect the world around you. Its massive head slowly dipped in a nod. Pass, Dreamweaver. The mirror awaits you. But be warned, it reflects not just what you desire, but what is. Be prepared to see your true self unvarnished. The serpent slowly uncoiled itself from the archway, its immense body sliding away into the shadows. The air around the gate seemed to shimmer, and the intricate patterns on the stone glowed softly. Elara let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "It saw right through me," she murmured. "Indeed," Lyra said, a faint smile on her lips. "The mirror and its guardian demand absolute honesty. You did well, Elara. To acknowledge your own desires alongside your noble cause is the mark of a true spirit." With the serpent's gate behind them, they stepped through the shimmering archway. The landscape beyond was different. The sand here was even finer, almost like dust, and it glowed with a faint internal moonlight, even in the midday sun. The air was cool and still, a stark contrast to the oppressive heat they had just endured. In the center of this otherworldly expanse lay a circular depression, and within it, partially buried in the luminous sand, was a perfectly circular disc of polished obsidian. It pulsed with a deep, mesmerizing glow, reflecting the sky above like a still, dark pool. This was the mirror of the moon gazer. As Elara approached, her reflection appeared on its surface, but it wasn't just her physical form. Within the reflection, subtle nuances of light and shadow shifted, revealing not just her face, but a sense of her spirit, her dreams, and even her unspoken fears. It was unnerving, yet profoundly insightful. "Touch it, Elara," Lyra encouraged. "Let it show you what you truly seek." Elara hesitated for a moment, then reached out and placed her hand on the cool, smooth surface of the mirror. As her fingers made contact, a wave of visions washed over her. She saw herself in Oakhaven, not as the quiet girl who read books, but as a beacon of light, weaving stories into the very air, inspiring dreams in the villagers. She saw the Loom of Dreams, vibrant and whole, its threads shimmering with renewed magic. She saw Lyra, serene and proud, and then she saw something else, a faint, shadowy distortion at the edges of the vision, a looming presence, waiting. The vision faded, leaving Elara feeling both empowered and a little shaken. The mirror had shown her not just her highest aspirations, but also the hint of a lurking threat, something she hadn't consciously perceived before. "What did you see?" Lyra asked gently. Elara took a deep breath. "My desires for the loom, for Oakhaven, for myself, but also a shadow, something waiting." Lyra's expression grew serious. The mirror reflects not just the soul, but the currents of the world. The fading magic has given rise to a force that opposes all life and light. It draws strength from apathy and forgotten dreams. "We must make haste, Elara. The final journey back to the loom is urgent." Elara carefully lifted the mirror of the moon gazer from the sand. It was surprisingly heavy, imbued with a palpable sense of ancient power. She wrapped it in soft cloth and placed it beside the star singer's whisper and the tear of the earth heart in her satchel. With all three artifacts secured, a profound sense of purpose, tinged with a new urgency, settled upon her. The loom awaited. With the mirror of the moon gazer safely retrieved, the return journey to the Whispering Woods began. Lyra, her brow furrowed in concern, urged them onward with a new sense of urgency. The Loom of Dreams needed them. The subtle warnings from the mirror, coupled with the increasing prevalence of the creatures of despair, confirmed that the threat was escalating. As they retraced their steps across the silvered sands, the vibrant shimmer felt muted, and the distant sunken peaks seemed shrouded in a deeper, more ominous mist. Lumi, usually an active and joyful presence, clung tighter to Elara, his light flickering anxiously. The air itself felt heavier, imbued with a pervasive sense of dread. The shadow revealed by the mirror, Lyra explained as they rested briefly under a rocky outcrop, is the culmination of the world's forgotten dreams. It is the null heart, a being born of pure oblivion. It seeks to consume the loom itself, to turn all of reality into a void of nothingness. A chill ran down Elara's spine. Apathy and forgotten dreams had manifested into a tangible, destructive force. The stakes were higher than she had imagined. As they entered the foothills leading back to the Whispering Woods, they encountered more weeping shades, their forms larger and more aggressive, their despair more potent. Elara found herself constantly drawing upon the joy and hope she had cultivated in the Valley of Sighs, channeling the energy of the tear of the earth heart to push them back. The star singer's whisper pulsed in her pouch, its silent melody cutting through the oppressive negativity, while the mirror of the moon gazer felt warm against her side, a reminder of her deepest desires. They fought their way through pockets of whispers of doubt, which twisted into terrifying illusions, attempting to sow discord between Elara and Lyra, whispering accusations and doubts about their intentions. But their bond, forged in shared purpose and mutual trust, held firm. Lumi, too, proved invaluable, his sharp chirps and bright light dispelling minor illusions and revealing safe paths. The journey that had taken weeks now felt compressed into an agonizing blur of days and nights. They pushed themselves to their limits, driven by the knowledge that every moment counted. Finally, the familiar, gnarled roots of the ancient sentinel oak appeared on the horizon. A wave of relief washed over Elara, quickly replaced by a fresh surge of dread. The Whispering Woods, once a haven of gentle magic, was silent, terribly, utterly silent. The leaves of the sentinel oak, usually a vibrant green, were dull and brittle, tinged with gray. The air was heavy, stagnant, devoid of the sweet, wild scent she remembered. The null heart has reached the woods, Lyra said, her voice tight with worry. We must make haste. They plunged into the forest. The shimmering leaves of blue, purple, and silver that once adorned the trees of the Heartwood glade were now faded, drooping, their inner light almost extinguished. The luminous moss underfoot was dim, its hum barely perceptible. The very essence of the woods seemed to be draining away. As they neared the glade, the oppressive silence was broken by a low, guttural thrumming, a dissonant echo of the loom's true melody. And then they saw it. The Heartwood glade was no longer bathed in ethereal light. a swirling vortex of pure shadow, blacker than the deepest night, pulsed around the ancient tree and the Loom of Dreams. Within the vortex, a figure coalesced, tall and gaunt, its form vaguely humanoid, but shifting and indistinct like smoke. Its eyes, if it had them, seemed to absorb all light, leaving only 2 pinpricks of absolute void. This was the Null Heart. It reached out long, shadowy tendrils, coiling them around the magnificent tree, sapping its life force. Other tendrils stretched towards the Loom of Dreams, already dim and struggling, attempting to unravel its shimmering threads. The air crackled with a malevolent energy, a complete absence of hope and imagination. It feeds on the stillness, on the forgotten dreams. Elara breathed, her face pale. It seeks to extinguish the last spark of creation. Elara's heart pounded in her chest. This was it, the culmination of their journey. The fate of the realm hung in the balance. The 3 artifacts pulsed within her satchel, their combined energies eager to be unleashed. Elara did not hesitate. Elara, we must combine the artifact's power. The Star Singer's whisper to reawaken the cosmic melodies, the tear of the Earth Heart to ignite the will to grow, and the mirror of the Moon Gazer to reflect the purest desires. As Elara raised her staff, its crystal glowing fiercely, Elara pulled the 3 artifacts from her satchel. The whisper of the Star Singer hummed with silent power, the tear of the Earth Heart radiated warmth, and the mirror of the Moon Gazer pulsed with a deep, reflective light. The Null Heart sensed their intent. Its shadowy tendrils lashed out, faster than thought, striking at them with icy blasts of pure apathy. Elara conjured a shimmering shield of light from her staff, deflecting the initial attacks, but Elara could see the strain on her face. "Now, Elara," Elara cried, her voice strained. "Focus your will." Elara extended her hands, holding the 3 artifacts before her. She remembered Lyra's words. The magic was not in casting spells, but in seeing, hearing, and feeling. She closed her eyes, pushing through the cold tendrils of despair that threatened to engulf her. She focused on the Star Singer's whisper, feeling its silent, cosmic melody resonate within her. She imagined the ancient stars singing lullabies to the universe, weaving dreams into the very fabric of space. She willed that forgotten song to burst forth, to remind the world of its boundless possibilities. Then she focused on the tear of the Earth Heart, feeling its unwavering hope, its quiet promise of renewal. She envisioned dormant seeds bursting into life, withered branches sprouting green leaves, stagnant rivers flowing clear once more. She poured her longing for the world to awaken, to dream again, into the crystal tear. Finally, she focused on the mirror of the Moon Gazer, letting it reflect not just her own desires, but the collective, suppressed dreams of all living things. She remembered the faces in Oakhaven, the dreams they hadn't realized they missed. She saw the loom, vibrant and alive, its threads spinning with renewed vigor. She projected her deepest, purest intention to restore what was lost, to awaken what slumbered. As Elara concentrated, a luminous aura began to emanate from her, growing brighter and brighter. The three artifacts pulsed with an overwhelming brilliance, their combined energies weaving together, forming a spiraling column of pure, radiant light that shot upwards, piercing the dark vortex surrounding the loom. The null heart hissed, a sound of pure agony. The column of light was anathema to it, burning away its shadowy form. It lashed out wildly, its tendrils recoiling from the immense light. But Elara held firm, her gaze fixed on the loom, her will unbending. The light swelled, pouring into the ancient tree, revitalizing its withered branches. It surged into the Loom of Dreams, chasing away the decay, repairing the broken threads. The loom groaned, then began to spin anew, faster and brighter than before, its vibrant thrum returning, echoing throughout the glade. As the loom roared back to life, its own light joined Elara's, forming a dazzling cascade of colors that obliterated the null heart's vortex. The creature of oblivion screamed, a sound that was pure silence, a void of nothingness. Its amorphous form began to dissipate, tearing apart at the seams, unable to withstand the overwhelming surge of creation and renewed dreams. With a final agonizing whisper of despair, it dissolved completely, leaving only a lingering chill in the air that quickly faded. The glade was once again bathed in the vibrant, shifting light of the loom. The trees shimmered with renewed brilliance, their leaves vibrant with blues, purples, and silvers. The luminous moss underfoot hummed with restored energy. Lumi, released from the oppressive atmosphere, danced excitedly in the air, his light a joyous beacon. Elara, utterly drained but exhilarated, sank to her knees, the three artifacts falling gently into the glowing moss beside her. Lyra rushed to her side, her face radiant with relief and profound gratitude. "You did it, Elara," Lyra whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "You saved us all. You truly are the Dreamweaver." Elara looked at the loom, spinning with renewed vigor, its vibrant threads weaving a tapestry of pure, unadulterated light. She looked at Lyra, her mentor and friend. She looked at Lumi, chirping happily. And she realized that the greatest magic wasn't in some grand spell, but in the simple, unwavering power of hope, joy, and the courage to dream. The days following the Null Heart's defeat were filled with a profound sense of peace and renewal. The Heartwood Glade, once threatened by the encroaching shadows, now pulsed with an even greater vibrancy than before. The Loom of Dreams spun tirelessly, its re-energized threads weaving a tapestry of reality infused with fresh hope and burgeoning dreams. Lyra, though still dedicated to tending the loom, began to guide Elara in understanding its deeper mysteries. Elara spent hours in the glade, learning to perceive the subtle currents of magic that flowed from the loom into the world. She learned to discern the signature of different dreams, the bold hues of ambition, the gentle pastels of quiet yearning, the fiery reds of passionate creation. With Lumi as her constant companion, always perched on her shoulder or fluttering around the shimmering threads, Elara's connection to the magical realm deepened. She found she could instinctively sense the well-being of the loom, feeling its thrumming resonate within her own heart. The effects of the loom's restoration spread far beyond the Whispering Woods. In Oakhaven, a subtle but undeniable shift occurred. The villagers, once content with their quiet routines, began to experience something new, something vibrant. The baker, Old Man Tiber, suddenly found himself experimenting with new, impossibly delicious pastries, their flavors hinting at forgotten fruits. Children on the village green started playing games with more imaginative rules, their laughter ringing with a newfound lightness. Even the local storyteller, Martha, found her tales gaining a richer depth, weaving in characters and plots that seemed to spring from the very air. Elara visited Oakhaven often, always accompanied by Lumi. She watched her home blossom, seeing the subtle signs of reawakened dreams. The colors of the village houses seemed brighter, the flowers in gardens more vivid. She didn't reveal the truth of her journey to the villagers, knowing they wouldn't fully comprehend, but she carried the quiet satisfaction of knowing she had played a part in their renewed vibrancy. She found herself sharing stories, not from the library's old tomes, but conjured from the depths of her own growing understanding of dreams and their power, and the villagers listened, captivated by the magic in her words. The Whispering Woods itself began to thrive. Animals that had vanished during the Nullheart's reign slowly returned, their eyes bright with rediscovered wonder. The trees, once gray and brittle, unfurled new leaves of shimmering silver and purple, their soft chimes echoing through the revitalized forest. The air carried the sweet scent of night jasmine and pine, and the gentle humming of the loom was now a constant, harmonious lullaby that permeated the entire woods. The three artifacts, the whisper of the star singer, the tear of the earth heart, and the mirror of the moon gazer, were carefully placed in a sacred niche near the loom, their energies continuing to feed its revitalized power. Elara sometimes sat by them, meditating, drawing upon their unique essences to deepen her own connection to the world's dreams. The star singer's whisper now offered silent melodies that helped her focus. The tear of the earth heart soothed any lingering anxieties with its profound peace, and the mirror of the moon gazer, held in her hands, would occasionally offer glimpses of new possibilities, new dreams waiting to be sparked. One afternoon, as Elara sat by the loom, Lyra approached, her eyes filled with a gentle warmth. "The loom is strong, Elara," she said softly, "stronger than it has been in centuries. Your courage, your purity of heart, has done what generations of gentle tending could not achieve." Elara smiled. "I couldn't have done it without you, Lyra. You guided me, taught me." "And you taught me, Elara?" Lyra replied, her gaze distant, as if seeing beyond the glade. "You reminded me of the resilience of dreams, even in the face of deepest despair. You showed me that even a quiet girl from Oakhaven can weave the destiny of a realm." Lyra paused, then continued, "The time is coming, Elara, for you to take on the mantle fully, to become the guardian of the loom, the one who watches over the dreams of this world." Elara felt a sense of awe and responsibility settle upon her. She was no longer just Elara from Oakhaven. She was Elara, the Dreamweaver. Months turned into seasons, and Elara embraced her role as the new Dreamweaver with a quiet strength that belied her years. Lyra, having passed on her wisdom and duties, decided it was time to journey to distant lands, to seek out other places where dreams might be fading and offer her ancient wisdom. Their farewell was heartfelt, a promise of paths crossing again. Elara continued to live in the Heartwood Glade, her days filled with the sacred task of tending the loom. She learned its every whisper, its every thrum. She discovered how to gently guide the dreams that flowed into it, ensuring a harmonious balance. She learned to sense the subtle shifts in the realm, to know when a particular area was struggling with apathy, or when a surge of new ideas needed nurturing. Lumi, a faithful glimmerwing, remained her constant companion, his bright light and melodious trills a comforting presence. He would often fly out from the glade, venturing into the world, returning with snippets of information, echoes of new dreams forming in distant villages, or hints of lingering shadows that needed gentle encouragement to fade. Elara herself blossomed. Her midnight hair seemed to gleam with an inner light, and her moss-green eyes held the profound wisdom of one who had seen the unseen threads of reality. She still loved her books from Oakhaven, and often brought them back to the glade, finding new meanings in old tales, seeing the magic hidden within their words. She learned that every story, every melody, every act of creation was a form of dreaming. The path to the loom was now known only to a few, those who truly sought it out, their hearts drawn by the rekindled magic. Occasionally, a lost traveller, driven by an unacknowledged yearning, would stumble upon the glade, much like Elara had. She would greet them with a gentle smile, offering them rest and perhaps a story that would stir a forgotten dream within their soul, sending them back into the world with a renewed sense of purpose. The world outside the glade was changing, slowly, subtly, but undeniably. The colors grew richer, the air purer, and the laughter of people carried a deeper resonance. The seeds of creativity, once dormant, began to sprout in unexpected places. Artists painted with bolder strokes, musicians composed with more intricate melodies, and inventors crafted wonders born from pure imagination. Elara, the quiet girl from Oakhaven, had become the guardian of all dreams. Her life, once bound by the predictable rhythm of a small village, was now intertwined with the very pulse of the realm. As she sat before the magnificent Loom of Dreams, its threads shimmering with endless possibilities, she felt a profound sense of belonging. The humming of the loom was her lullaby, the weaving of destiny her sacred song. And in the quiet moments, as the moon cast its silver glow upon the glade, Elara would sometimes close her eyes and simply dream, knowing that her own dreams, like countless others, were now a vital thread in the endless, beautiful tapestry of existence. The world slept, but the Dreamweaver watched, ensuring the song of dreams would never fade again.